Welcome to Intimate Conversations, where we support you in healing heartbreak so you can live fully embodied, unapologetically, and deliciously free, being exactly who you are. We are sponsored by Magic Mind, my morning elixir that I swear gives me more focus, expands my joy, and puts an extra spring in my step. So, okay, you luscious creature, it is time to get intimate. Hello, delicious people. Welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations. I'm sure you might have remembered watching Bob Gardner. We had him as a guest, and I'm like, ooh, we need to interview the woman, the whole relationship. So today we have both Bob and Jasmine with us. So I'll read a little bit about Bob's bio, and then we'll get to know Jasmine a little more, and then we'll dive into what it really takes in the real world to make a relationship thrive with ourselves, with each other, and in a family. And so Bob, if you haven't watched that prior episode, spent 18 years of his life battling frequent bouts of depression, addiction, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. And then as an entrepreneur, there was this internal struggle that really made him unproductive, sensitive to any threat to his business, and feeling like he was making poor decisions. His ability to make decisions was poor. Like, how am I going to put food on the table for my family? And it bankrupted him and took him to the brink of even losing Jasmine and the kids, until he finally couldn't take it anymore. And he created a method to completely get rid of those inner demons so that he could live his life without this constant struggle. And since founding the company, The Freedom Specialist, he's helped hundreds of people through programs, presentations, coaching, and retreats to discover just that stress doesn't have to be a fact of life, and that happiness is a skill that anyone can learn. And it's also the most reliable road to leaving behind all the things that really keep people stuck in depression, anxiety, addiction, and more. And as I said before, I'd like you to learn more about this incredible man, incredible couple at thefreedomspecialist.com, because I've heard that at these retreats on the Friday night, Jasmine arrives and they start to answer questions. They pull back the veil of what it really takes. And so, Jasmine, I'm so grateful that you're here. So let's just start there. How did you meet this guy? How did you get into this relationship? Or what do you think about the Friday nights where they pull the curtains back? Start wherever you'd like, my love.
I don't know how we got into this relationship. It was a long hard process, actually. We met on the folk dance team at Brigham Young University. We both made the team at the same time. So we spent long practice hours together. We were basically friends for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Kind of up and down friends. And then we just started dating and got married pretty quickly after that year and a half. And then we were still on the team. So we went on another tour and just kind of, plunged ourselves into whatever this was. So yeah, that's how we met. We just kind of have been figuring things out for the past 18 years. And Friday nights at the events, I like to come up. I teach the guys and women some dancing, just, having fun, things that they probably hadn't done before, because it's like folk dance. It's not regular dance.
Okay.
I have like a Q&A where they can ask anything they want. And I haven't come across a question yet that I haven't answered. So there's, we're pretty open about it too.
Beautiful. That's amazing. And so what was it that you would say was the thing you love, or currently even love the most about Bob? Appreciate
when we first met.
Oh no.
18 years ago.
It's honestly a different lifetime ago. We both changed so much. I think we just had fun. We could both dance and just hang out, and it was pretty relaxed.
She wasn't high maintenance like a lot of the other dancers.
You
lucky. Would know about the dance world, Alana, so you know all about that, right? So I was
Totally.
like, well, she's chill, she's good with kids,
Yeah, so we just kind of, I don't know, clicked that way. Now it's we don't really have a lot in common anymore, but we're both here, we both want to have a good life. We both want to be together, but we both want to enjoy it. We don't want to be together and be tolerating it or hating it. So
No.
we've consciously made a decision that if we're going to stay together, we're going to like it. We're going to have fun. And so both of us are always just aiming at that, having fun, being happy together, apart, whatever. But that's our goal.
I love it. Thank you. So in the beginning, she was chill. She wasn't drama. What have you grown to love about her and appreciate about her over 18 years, Bob?
I think that one of the biggest things that right now is stands out to me is that she's genuine and sincere in her, like in how she lives. Like she doesn't claim to be more than she is. She doesn't try to be less than she is. And if it works for her, great. If whatever you're doing works for you, that's great. And so she's honest with that and doesn't try to like push on other people like I used to do to her. But she doesn't try to push on other people like this is how you should live, unless it's the kids. But that's our job.
Sure, the kids.
But she doesn't do that at all. It's just like a genuine, honest, this is what I believe, this is what I feel, this is the direction I'm going, and it's working for me. And I appreciate that sort of non-confrontational, but still sincere look at life. It's so beautiful to watch.
Wow. So thank you. What does it awaken in you, her being that way? What does it make possible for you?
Like it has demanded, like, am I pushing something on her? Like, am I living that honestly? Sometimes I would feel really inferior over like years past.
Oh,
like, here's a person who can be like, this is something I'm going to do, and they go do it. And there's not this internal dialogue. She hasn't dealt with a lot of the kind of inner demons that I struggled with for a long time. And so it was just like this sincere, okay, I'm going to go try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. And I'll move on and I'll do this thing. And I would look at that and I would just be like, I am not doing that in this area. Oh no. And then sometimes I would see places where I was trying to pretend that I was and not. So it really has become a call to my own sincerity and a deeper call for me to be true to whatever my life is demanding, And so she doesn't impose herself on that at all, but just her living that way is enough of an invitation.
Wow. That's extraordinary that you're willing to receive that, because you could go south and go insecure, but you're receiving it as a call to being even more sincere.
Yeah. I mean, I've done the insecure thing too. Let's not call it the biggest virtue on the planet.
Okay. So maybe stay there for a second. Then how did you shift it from collapsing and feeling insecure about it to receiving it as a call? Was that your own internal work? Was that a way she was being?
So no, like she's really been that way pretty much all the time. There may have been more or less tolerance in the beginning than there is now. There's, there may have been more expectation in the beginning than there is now. But on my end, it was all the things that I learned to get myself out of the addictive patterns and the depressive spirals and stuff. Like, where is this feeling coming from? As soon as it arose, then I would look at it and be like, oh, wow, that's juicy. Okay, let's go look at that one. And then see, like, is there still something that's happening between us when I'm clear? And then if there is, then we would talk about it. But often there wasn't. It was just me being insecure.
Got it. So she was literally a catalyst for you to do your inner work, and you were willing to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that that's one of the many beautiful things about any kind of relationship, whether it's with parents and kids, or friends and friends, or, an intimate relationship or a married relationship, is that like when you're around another person long enough, they sort of become a mirror. Like they let you see what you're doing, and will you look in the mirror is a different question.
Yeah. Thank you for your honesty when you didn't want to look in, but then also your courage to look in the mirror and evolve, and then turn that into literally how you serve humanity. Jasmine, what about him? Maybe it started off as annoyance or what have you, but it really woke something up in you to become even a better human that has evolved over the last 2 decades.
So like he said, I think we both went into marriage with a lot of expectations, probably a lot of unsaid expectations. So we were both kind of like living in this world where we were fighting each other unintentionally because we both wanted things that we left unspoken. And just through the years, how we have grown and evolved and changed through all that we've been through together, and the different paths we've taken, I've had to become like I really have had to become more open and more relaxed. And I think I was that way before, but in my head, it was probably more, well, you can do that if you want, but I'll just go over here. And,
Yeah.
you know, you can do that over there. But like when it's this, I can't just leave and ignore it if I want this relationship to stay.
Yeah.
So it's something that we had to work and figure out. And I had to just kind of drop down all of my expectations that, well, this works for me and everybody should do that. And I didn't really feel that like I have a one size fits all answer. I've never felt that. But when it came to our relationship, I wanted us to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And when we weren't, then it just kind of was like, well, what is this even doing?
Yeah, right now it's
What
like
are we doing?
we're reading different storybooks, but happen to be holding hands.
Yeah. So like, you know, we figured things out and we're still going to be figuring things out. And it just seems like it's going to be always a journey.
Well, yeah, that we never get there. Yeah. Go to the most, so thank you. Go to the most difficult place where you were on the brink of leaving, and speak as openly as you want about what was going on. And how did you come back together? What was put into place so that you could move forward? And
Because it's like there were kind of two.
There were kind of two. The
main
first one
ones.
was when I was deeply into the sort of really suicidal, really depressed, deeply into some of the compulsive pornography use that wasn't static all the time, but was binge and then off and binge and off, or static for a bit. And then when she finally was like, okay, I want to know the extent of it and stuff. And it was really jarring for her.
yeah,
So that was, she stayed and we stuck together and decided to figure that out for one reason. And then there was one that happened later as a result of other things. Maybe you want to talk about the first one.
Yeah, sure. So we were having this conversation, like you said, you know, like, okay, tell me everything. And it's never fun, you know.
oh, I was going to say, how did it feel?
Well, I had kind of gotten to the point by that time where I didn't want full disclosure. I didn't want him to tell me every time he messed up or, you know, whatever. It was just, we're trying to take care of this. I will support you, whatever. But then something happened. I was just like, I need to know everything. And he told me, and I was just like, okay, just so you know, I have thought about leaving, to the point where I'm like, what would I do with the kids? We had like, my aunt lived close and that was it. So I was like, well, would I just go and stay at my aunt's house till I could make it up to my parents? Or, you know, when would I go? Would I say goodbye? Would I just take off? Like, I'd contemplated details about leaving, and not that I was set on it, but I just felt like I had to let him know, like, hey, you know what, like, it's on the table. Like, I'm not going to stick around forever for you to do this. And, you know, for me to feel this horrible in our relationship.
Yeah.
And that was a real wake up call for him. Like, it had just never crossed his mind, I guess. And so in the middle of that conversation, I had kind of a vision, I guess you could say, of like, for just a fraction of a second,
Yeah.
I saw Bob as he saw himself and felt everything of how he felt about himself. And then it flipped, and I saw him as God sees him. And so when I saw him as Bob saw himself, it was horrible. It was the most awful feeling I've had ever. Just like self-loathing and depression and hatred. And like, I had never felt those feelings about myself before. And it was just awful. And I really think that it was just, you know, just a fraction of a second, because I don't think I would have been able to handle it.
Wow.
If it had lasted any longer, and realizing that that's what he was in all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
But then on the flip side, to see him how God sees him.
Yes.
Like the contrast.
Yes.
And I think for me, that was like, okay, as long as he's trying, you know, like, I will stick around as long as he's trying. We'll try and make this work. And so that's kind of what kept me going through the next few years. Like, I can see he's working on it. Sometimes, you know, it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sure.
But the overall progression, he's trying.
Yeah.
So it was a few years. And then just a couple of years ago, he had a giant blow up.
Yeah, huge.
just disaster, explosion. And
So, I mean, I might say that the way that we started our relationship was this notion, like the promise is you're going to come together, you'll figure things out together. But in practice, that's not what had happened. You had two people that are not sure how to interact this way. Both of us were very naive when it came to a lot of things.
we're raised, our families are very different. His is like loud and drama. Mine's very subdued and no drama. And I'm not a very good communicator, and he has all the words all the time, so like trying to put that together, and we just weren't ever really successful at doing it.
So she thought I was mad at her for the first year we were married because I was just passionate about the conversation.
Yes.
And, anyway, that led to us being like, whenever there's an issue, like we like hope passively, like we would drop comments or like do gestures or something that we hope the other person would pick up on and read our mind, and like maybe they'd fix it. But she would go to her family and talk to them about things. I would go to friends, or I would go to seminars, or I would go to other people and healers. And so as much as we had promised to come together, in practice, every time there was a difficulty, we were running apart.
Understood.
And so that led to me in entertaining psychedelics for a while and jumping into that. And that's something that, she grew up with a father who was a DARE officer and
a police officer,
and like really concerned about safety, and very, very like rightly so, safety and legality.
And the other issue was he didn't tell me about it.
Right.
So for a whole year he was doing this behind my back and hiding it from me. And like I still have this thing about being lied to. Like it's probably the one thing that gets me so angry, like when my kids lie to me, just because, with the addiction and things, I just felt like I had been lied to for so many years. And then
you're done.
We work through it. And then there's this other thing that happens that we're back to over there where he's lying, but doing things behind my back, which I think was the bigger issue.
So that was the blow up when you found out.
Like I had just finished running a retreat. We had done our thing, like whatever, the people went. And then that last morning or evening or whatever, we both just kind of like, okay, I don't even know if this is going to work anymore. So she had to go home, pick up the kids and stuff. I handed over like operations of the business to my business partner. And I was like, you got to handle this. I got to deal with something that's more important at the moment. I remember crying in the lap of he was 13 at the time, and just being like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we've messed everything up. And I had to get my stuff together to be able to confront like what was going on, because I felt a lot of blame, but I also felt a lot of like frustration, confusion, not knowing what was going on. She went to some friends, she went to her parents, like we didn't really talk for a bit.
Well, I was just so angry. So he came home, but I basically just ignored him for 2 days, didn't want anything to do with him. And
so then we had to decide, is it something that we actually want to work together? So it wasn't about like, okay, cool, can we like make amends for the past? It was like, all right, can we make a clean break? If all goes to pot, like am I actually interested in life with this person? Like that was the question. And that was her question. So we spent a week where we basically didn't leave each other's side. She didn't sleep for a couple days.
Like the whole week.
and lots of conversations, difficult ones, easy ones, like questions about things. I would say what I was like interested in. She's like, I don't know if that's something that I'm interested in. Like, I don't know if that makes me comfortable. And then we'd have to like sit with that. And there were things that she wanted that I was like, that feels like a restriction. And then we'd have to, and at the end of the time, it was a week-ish, somewhere around a week, 10 days or something. We were like, okay, cool. Is this something we're going to do? And as soon as we made that decision, pretty quickly, it was like, cool, drop the rest. Let's go.
Because we had come to a point where it was like, look, we're either going to stay and it'll be good, or we're going to leave and it'll be good. And if either of us wants to leave, fine. Like, no hard feelings, no pressure, let's just figure it out. But we both need to want to stay, and we both need to want to make it work. So once we decided that, yes, we both did want to stay, we kind of both have the personality of like
a little impatient.
yeah, like, let's just do it. You know, like, why are we still clinging to this in the back? We don't want that in the back. We just want to go forward. And so it really was kind of a clean break where we were just able to leave it and continue forward.
Wow. What were some of the topics or questions when you say, are you interested in this life with this person? What do you want? Are we talking like physical, mental, spiritual, vocational, financial, social, parental, sexual? Like how many areas did you talk about for a week to get to this conclusion that, wow, we do want to stay together? What questions needed to be addressed or revealed or contemplated?
So many.
I'm sure that's why I'm asking.
It was probably all of the above. You know,
Yeah.
like, honestly, my memory of that week, when I talk about it, it's like hell week. You know, the football team goes and they have hell week. That's what it was for me. It was just so intense, no sleep, just go conversations, or just sitting or trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And we probably talked about everything under the sun, just get everything out there, because there had been so many like secrets, or not necessarily secrets, but unsaid things that
withheld
hadn't made it out
information.
yet.
Sure.
And it was just like, no, this is a time where we're going to get everything out, because it needs to be out if we're going to actually make an informed decision of just where to go.
So what was it then? So if you talk about everything, what was it that you needed to hear or needed to know to say, I'm in?
Like on my end, I think a lot of the struggles that I ran through, perhaps because of the engagement with pornography and other things, there was like this desire for her to want me, not just sexually, but just like in all the ways, right? To celebrate what I was doing, to like be involved in it in some way. And I think what started to dawn then and has continued to dawn since, so it's not like it all happened in that 1 week, was the sort of like the realization that her way of wanting doesn't match my way of expecting wanting.
So I felt like I was doing a good job, you know, like, I'm showing you I want you. I'm showing you I support you, you know, I'm here for you. But it didn't come off in his ideal, because, you know, my way is different of showing that than his. And it was just never talked about. So I thought I was giving my all into it, and he wasn't seeing it. So he didn't think I was doing it.
And
how'd
that get resolved?
I mean, I think it took a while of me sitting, like when I first started going to 12-step meetings way back in the day, one of the benefits of it was that I sat in a room and it was a couples meeting. So even though the guys sometimes would make it, I'd be listening week after week to the women talking about what was going on in their life. And that was when it started to dawn, oh, wait, maybe my wife is feeling this thing too. Anyway, so since then, I've developed this sort of like really intent to listen from another perspective as much as I can see, and see what it might feel like in that way, and kind of put it in there. So when she started describing it, or talking about things that she's doing, obviously she would talk about things she was uncomfortable with. Like sexually, she didn't really feel safe with me. And so like to describe that, well, that wasn't too pleasant to listen to. But there were other things that she was doing that, as she described some, then I let my mind kind of start to wander through, like, what are other things that she's doing? Like ways like I was liking to sleep on the floor because it was better for my body. It felt great. She's up on a bed. So she got rid of the bed, bought a futon. Now we both sleep on the floor and it's super comfortable. Things like that I wouldn't have picked up before. Oh, that's like a total investment in, I want to be with you, bro. Yeah. And I'm going to actually arrange my life so that that's a possibility. And I would miss those. Right. Because this is where I think love languages sometimes get in the way, is people identify with a love language. They expect other people to talk to them that way, even though those people aren't even wired to think that way necessarily. No. Yeah. And so like to start to recognize those types of things, you know, she would fill a bag with treats, or like leave a little note here, or, you know, plan a date or something. And my mind would before dismiss those as, okay, cool. Yeah, we're going on a date, or like, oh, that's nice, a treat. But okay, she's not swooning when I walk in the door and like falling all over ourselves when I get home from, you know, it's a smile. And so my body was like, I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. Right. fortunately, my other senses were picking up on the other things. So as memory started to dawn, then I started to see, look, this is a massive investment from one person saying constantly,
Yes.
I want you. And that helped a ton.
Oh, that's really, really beautiful. What shifted for you, Jasmine, that you needed to be heard or understood about, that started to make you feel more, I don't know, safe, desired, committed?
Maybe one of the biggest things is, like I said before, I don't have words. He has all the words. So a lot of times when we try and talk about it, the problem would be, it would take my mind a while to think about it.
Yeah.
And take it even longer to get from my brain out my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
He would take that as, I don't know.
Like I would take it as like a silent treatment, or I'm not talking to you, or I would take it like she's filtering and editing, and then I wouldn't be like, just spit it out already. Like, just tell me what's there.
When like I really just could not spit it out.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our conversations would be him just, well, she's not talking. So he talks. And I'm just like,
I try to talk. Just be quiet.
yeah, I'm just trying. It's just not coming out. So
Yeah.
we started emailing so that, just put a little bit of emotional distance. So
Yeah.
the emotional stress for me wasn't as much.
Yeah.
And I'm way better at getting it down on paper than getting it out of my mouth. So I can say exactly what I want, how I want, on writing it down.
Yeah.
Send it over to him,
And they were not always nice at all. And I would have to deal with that. Okay, it's a TV, it's a computer screen. Let me just handle my emotional state, and then I'll answer like a normal person.
But like him actually giving me the space, like recognizing that I respond slower than he does.
Yeah.
A lot slower, and giving me the space and the opportunity, either time-wise or in a different way, to actually respond or initiate a conversation in a way that was more comfortable for me, that was, less pressure and less stressful, where I could actually feel like I could say what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
I do think that it's an important point to note. Guys don't realize this, but we hold a lot of the cards when it comes to an in-person conversation. We're bigger, we're often louder, we're stronger usually. And so like there's a level of intimidation that all of the nonverbal communication, depending on how you hold yourself, whether you realize it or not, and a lot of guys don't realize it, is like your wife is already starting from a handicap when it comes to both of you having an equal discussion.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with the kids. So like I became very attuned to like, what is my presence doing that is creating a result in these people? And so like when our oldest, for instance, got into pornography when he was like 11 and tried to buy something on Amazon on our account, we were at Olive Garden, and like she's like, I just got this notification. I'm like, I'm right here with you. But like we went home, and I knew that if I sit there and I confront the kid face to face, force him to look me in the eye, like I have all the cards, and the kid they do what I did, which is like hide, only reveal as much as possible, feel negative, complain to friends. And I was like, I didn't want that. So I sat on the ground while my son was on the bed. I avoided eye contact unless he looked at me. Like I let him just speak to whatever was there. I asked questions about his experience. I didn't try to demand stuff. And that's something that I brought into as well as my conversations with Jasmine, because I don't want to intimidate people.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think it happens unconsciously a lot.
And it's not like I ever worried about like being physically hurt, by his, he's taller, he's stronger, he's a man kind of thing. Like I didn't ever worry about physical whatever. But the fact is that if I'm like sitting like this, like this is already, it is scarier to be smaller sometimes, and just it's more comfortable when you're on the same
level. And you can't hear when you're scared. You go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn. Like you're trying to hear, but you can't because you're just afraid.
Yeah.
Wow. So
you have plenty of experience with that too, where what it's like to be on the intimidated side of things. maybe you could speak to that, what it's like. Because I think, I mean, as this is a topic of conversation, the people that are listening here, maybe you don't get into this conversation that much, but what it feels like when there's just that, even just a little bit of intimidation.
Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you. And then I want to go remind me, I want to pick up with the emails when we get back.
Sure.
So Jasmine, I'm tall. I'm 5'10". I'm a big girl. I put my heels on. I'm even bigger. And I speak a lot and I make a presence. And when a man raises his voice, or when he glares, or when he's demeaning language, or when he slams his hand down or slams it on me, obviously.
Yeah.
I leave my body. I disassociate. It's terror. It's beyond terror.
Is it like a feeling of lack of control and that you're just trying to cope at that point?
No, I leave my body.
Oh, wow.
I am so terrified. I literally leave my body. And my work that I'm doing right now to integrate my wounds is that I was told when I was really little, don't move, don't say anything, or you'll die. So I leave my body and I just stand there and I put up with it. My brain, if it wasn't traumatized and freaked out and I wasn't disassociated, would be like, well, this isn't very healthy. You should probably leave. Like, I'm a cum laude graduate of an Ivy League school. I'm pretty smart. But my body, when that happens, I literally go frozen. I don't move and I'm not here. So I'm learning how to find that disassociated girl, bring her back into the body. And then the first feelings are not fun, hopeless, suicidal.
Yeah.
Then as I keep feeling through those, terrified. Then as I start to find my worth, mad. And then from hypervigilance down into discernment, choice. And I can stay present, but I'm learning how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that kind of nervous system retreat. I mean, this is what, like with the women's retreats, there's a lot of them that have been abused, a lot of them that have been through some rough spaces. And so I think that's why it's been so powerful, is because we're training them to like be okay in the body they're in and recognize that they have more choices than they thought they did.
Correct.
And more power than they thought they did. And
totally.
And so that's what I wanted to give Jasmine with the emails first, was like actual physical space, so that yes, I was disappointed, or I would roll my eyes, or I would be like, and unconsciously that's doing something. So, I'd send an email and I'd be like, okay, I sent you an email. And then like 45 minutes later, I'd be like, did you read the email? There's kids jumping up and down. She's cooking dinner or something. Did you read the email? She's like, I haven't gotten to it. So I had to learn some patience.
Yeah. I got it. So the healing, I guess we could say, that took place in this way of expressing yourself in a safe way that brought you closer and closer. There was space, there was time, there was the learning of patience, there was the learning of you, Jasmine, communicating in a way that works. So being able to communicate. Do you still communicate by email? Or do you, is it a tool that actually really works for you, or was it a phase in your healing?
We still use it. I mean, it's not like that's all we do, but if it's something big or really emotionally charged
or hard to communicate, like, I don't know what I'm saying, so let me write it out in an email.
Got it.
So I think the last time we did that was like in July or something.
So when something comes up that's big, there have been times where I've written an email and then realized at the end that helps me process everything, and I never sent it.
Yes, true.
Because I'm like at first ranting, and then I go back and I got to go edit. Do I actually want to say this, or is this going to blow things up? That space in my own thought process to be like, hold on, this is useful. Yeah. And then I can look through, and I have a framework that we share with people to like lay things out so that it opens a space for both people to be right. Yeah. So I go through, and there's three segments, right? Essentially the facts. Yeah. Which is like, what do I see happening? And I admit that I don't have all the facts, because what she sees is not what I'm seeing. Correct. Yeah. I share the things that I've been seeing, hearing, whatever. And then I go, I don't know if that's all that you're seeing. Please share. Like, I open that. And I share, the second section is feelings. Yeah. So that's like, this is what comes up for me. And I'm very, very clear to try and say, you're making me feel this way, or that makes me feel this way, because I know differently. And so, like, look, when I saw that this came up, these are the feelings I was dealing with at the same time. I don't know how you're feeling. I imagine it could feel like this, that, or the other. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
me in an email, literally trying to put myself into their shoes. And
Thank
then,
you.
So you don't say you're making me feel like
no,
this. Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
I so like I try and guess how they might be feeling. I don't say it's your fault that I'm feeling this way.
No.
Then future is the last one. So facts, feelings, future. And that is where am I headed? Like if we're not even headed in the same direction, that might be a good thing to figure out. And so I'm like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. What exactly do you want out of it?
Yeah.
And she doesn't respond in that manner at all. Like sometimes they're like mean. But she needs to get that stuff out because she's very, very, edited in real life with the kids and stuff, or it just doesn't come out. And so I write it this way, and sometimes she does write it that way. But I write it that way because I want at each level a sort of tacit admission that I'm not right about any of this. I'm right about what I've experienced, and that's it. And you're right about what you've experienced. Now, where do we go from here?
Yeah. And I love this. And then where do we go from here? So all those steps make total sense. And I love that you're not blaming the other. You're taking ownership of your own experience, creating a framework where the emotions can be processed and you can do your best at communicating. What do you do about the next stage? Do you create new agreements? Do you create a new vision? Do you create a compromise? Like, what does the future look like when you create a solution?
What does the future look like?
We don't ever know what the future looks like. That's kind of one thing we've learned through our marriage. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But it just seems like we just kind of come to a point where we try to understand each other, because for me, it seems like a lot of the things that come up are from misunderstandings.
Yeah.
So he's reading me wrong, or I am reading him wrong, and so that's where it's like, I feel like this is happening. Remember, I know a lot of times I'm like, no, that's not what I'm thinking at all.
Or sometimes it is what they're thinking, but I haven't been willing to admit it, or she hasn't been willing to admit it, where she's like, I'm fine. And it's clear that she's not fine, but she doesn't want to talk about it. And so like bringing that up,
or sometimes I'm like, I'm fine because I'm working it out in my head. And at the moment, it's not like a big enough issue. Like it's not worth it for me to approach it to him from my point of view. But if it's on his mind and like, okay, well, I need to approach it because he's thinking about it too, then, that can happen. But as far as the future, it's more coming to an understanding. And
usually it's like 1, 2, sometimes 3 exchanges until we're finally at a point where, the next step is, now can we actually talk about this face to face without it being emotionally charged?
Yeah.
Because if we can do that, then we know that all the like freakouts about it are there. Then we can actually look at each other and is this actually a problem that needs to be solved?
Yeah, there have been like some email exchanges, after 3 or 4 where it just drops and it's done. Like we don't talk about it after. It's like, well, we just got everything out and it's fine. Yeah. Like it actually is fine. It's okay. And so it's just we don't need to talk about it anymore, and we don't worry about it anymore. That was all we needed to do.
Yeah.
You've really created a process and a framework to allow each other to sort of be catalysts to trigger each other's evolution, and a structure via email so you don't hurt each other. And you get curious, you take ownership, and then you get to the end of this and it either dissolves itself or the path is there and you're still committed to enjoying each other and your 6 kids. And amazing. When you do your retreats, Bob and Jasmine, you come to say hello at the end. Do you give this email structure assignment? Like, do you find it helps a lot of the couples that you work with?
Oh yeah, it helps a ton of them when they will do it. Most of them want to do it via text message, but text message as a medium demands an immediate response, and that doesn't allow the time for thinking. Like if I could assign pen pal and handwritten letter, I would. Most people won't do that, and email is what we did. So I don't try to like get them into 18th century, But text message, they'll just be like, okay, fine, and then they'll shoot text message. The other person reacts like nobody's business and whatnot. So when they'll do it, what happens is that the other person, they either don't read it, and that's good information to know. Oh, I'm in a relationship where the other person literally won't listen. Which there's one recently that I worked with, and the husband refused. He's like, no, 60% of communication is like nonverbal. And so don't you think we need to use all methods? And I'm like, dude, you're literally intimidating the heck out of your wife. What makes you think she's going to be able to say all the things on her mind?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't read emails. And when he finally would, and she finally wrote one, like all of a sudden he was like, oh, okay. That's a good point. Like, because it allowed her to say everything without interruption.
Yeah.
And so
you're really supporting me here, because I have this thing, Jasmine, called Heartmates. It's a platform for singles and couples. And it's got 3 tenements. One, if you're single, there's a dating aspect to it, dating app to it. But everybody's going through the intimacy training. We call it become the one, to either find the one or become the one to keep the one. So everybody needs to become the one and do this inner work, right? But depending if you're single or in a relationship, the curriculum changes. That's one aspect of it. The third aspect we call them conscious connection calls. And they're every single week. And we come together, and the structure is what's called a dyad. And so you ask a question, but the rule is all you're allowed to say is thank you. And the whole goal of them is understanding, not resolution.
Right.
And the 3 questions kind of go deeper, deeper, and deeper. And the listener gets to practice not interrupting, sitting in their own fire, not bolting, not criticizing, just sitting there, which is really difficult when you want to go, thank you. Right. So it's a great skill. And then the one who's talking gets to really not talk in a way to not make them erupt or make sure they don't leave me, or there's no agenda, because they're just going to say thank you. And so people find that what they say is true. And it sometimes is something, there's even a truth in there that they haven't even gotten to, because they've been so worried about the outside, they haven't been able to sit and they discover more about what's true. And then it's received. Thank you. And it's profound, the results. So this feels like a email version of the dyad's rules that create safety to feel, communicate, and receive each other in a way that doesn't make it escalate into conflict, and allows for kind of resolution to almost naturally occur through this dance, this communication, this revelation of truth.
Now, I will say that, like, because words aren't her strong suit, like when the last kind of blow up, there was a point where, like, okay, I'm here and I'm going to figure out how to fight for whatever this is.
Yes.
But I knew that if I said anything, like, she wouldn't say anything. I knew that if I said something, she would take it as duplicitous, because words are duplicitous. And so I decided to dance, and I turned, she's smiling.
Oh, how you guys met.
And so I turned on whatever music was there, and I did like expressive, lyrical, martial artsy moves, just whatever was there. And I like threw my whole soul into it. I looked like an idiot.
He did. And I thought, yes. And I'm not like, he's not a bad dancer. Obviously, we were on a dance team, but I still hadn't talked to him after, it'd been a couple of days, and I was sitting on my bed just so angry, and he just comes into the room and starts dancing around the room, and I'm just like, you are an idiot, like you look so stupid, just like all the bad things, like
sure
get out of my face, kind of thing. But he just kept going, and like I wouldn't have talked to him. There's no way I would have talked to him at all.
Yep.
And
probably not even email.
Yeah, no. So he just he kept dancing, and then he kept like trying to pull me up. I was like, don't touch me.
Come on.
Like, I didn't say a word still. But he just kept going and going. And I was just like, finally, I was just like, oh my gosh, he's never gonna stop. He's literally never gonna stop. And I was like, fine, you want to do this? So I pulled his phone for the playlist, and I put the Louis Capaldi song I can't ever remember the title, but it starts with like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
Before you go.
Before you go. And I was just like, you want a song? I'll give you a song. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
I'm like, fair enough. Okay.
Let her express.
She had a smirk on her face when those lyrics came on. She totally did. She was like, I was like, oh, snap. Fair enough. Okay. But I kept dancing and pulled her into it. And at a certain point, like, she just,
I really don't even remember how long of a time span this was.
Long time.
It could have been like he was dancing by himself for at least 15 minutes, but from the time where I turned on that song, and then when he was like trying to get me, and I literally had 0 words, and I was like, okay, fine, something needs to happen, or we're just gonna be stuck here. I'm gonna be stuck sitting on my bed watching him stupid dance forever. So I really was doing my best to try to interact, which was not a whole lot. Like, I didn't have a whole lot to give, but then at one point it snapped, and I feel like I died. Like, I collapsed. I lost all my, I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. And I think we're in the bathroom or something at that point for whatever reason. I just collapsed, and he caught me. And I remember him like carrying me back to bed, laying me down, and then just sitting there for the rest of the night with me. And I didn't move. I couldn't move. I had like nothing.
Wow.
You know, and so that I wasn't sleeping. I was just void of everything.
Yes.
And he just sat there silent,
Wow.
you know, with me, and like, that was kind of the point where it was just like, all right, everything's broken. Like, it's legitimately broken. What do we do now?
Yeah.
And I, too many people are trying to fix relationships, and they get caught in the loop of, I have to go back into the past to fix this thing and to make amends here, and then I can move forward. And while that's legitimate and it has helped a lot of people, often I think that less of that is needed. And both people, if they're willing to just be like, look, is this what I want? Let's go for it. And sometimes you have to dance like a maniac.
I mean, like, whatever form of communication is going to work, you know, like, and that was like, I'm a dancer. And even though I thought it was stupid as all get out, like, that's what actually got to me and allowed me to respond.
Yeah. This is really profound. The PSI work that I'm doing right now to heal my trauma, it doesn't come from words. She doesn't want story.
Right.
All she wants is body sensation, emotion. And I allow my body to recapitulate what it never got to do before, protect itself, stand up for itself, fight off. My mouth will go, but nothing will come out. You know, I'm letting my body show me the way home.
Yeah.
And so what I really appreciate about this is that you allowed, as dorky as you looked, you showed your commitment that nothing was going to stop you, even looking like an idiot or being told you're an idiot for 15 minutes, whatever. Like, your love and commitment showed through, and the level of surrender that or the level of letting go, dying, that she needed to know through all the anger and all the frustration and all the fury and all the rest of it. You got her to the edge, and she was brave and let go, and you were right there. And it sounds like not a word, written word, spoken word was expressed, but universes were communicated and brought home.
I mean, I think a lot of this probably comes from the work that I've figured out how to do, and do with all these people, right? Which is the deep recognition that there's such intelligence in the body, and that it can process things without words, without even memories coming up. Like, you don't even know what it's processing, but it's doing something. Yeah. And I wanted all of the thing to happen, and not just we have a verbal agreement. You know, I wanted it to be a full everything. And so,
well, this is embodiment. Yeah, I really acknowledge the embodiment of your truth. Uncomfortable at times, certainly brave all the way through, but you guys are embodying your truth and then choosing with each other. It's extraordinary. And I'm really honored to learn about this and hear your story. You've deeply inspired me. I don't know, could you maybe dance a little? Not right now, but like at some point when I see you guys again, maybe like show me some of your moves that you did.
They're not pretty.
I'm sure they're not, but I will never forget my image in my mind of her collapsing and you being beside her all night long. Yep. Like that, like a vigil to love, a vigil to what's possible. And if I was to say to all the viewers, what would it take inside of our own hearts, souls, to have our inner masculine and feminine come together like you embodied. That's got to do some healing. Because to me, everything on the inside, intimacy being an inside job, is projected outwardly, and our partners are brought to trigger anything that just needs to come home. So thank you for this extraordinary conversation, the real walking the talk of what it takes, and the teaching to others. So I want to be sure this interview, they're like, well, what does he do? And I'm like, can we learn more about this guy this woman puts up with? My God. Like, so anyways, thefreedomspecialist.com. Please just tell us, Bob, a little bit about what you do so people can sign up and
okay. So I developed a method that's basically body-based. So we're using breath, and I mean, there is some talking through things as needed, and we deal with the mind as well, but we're doing breath and movement and tension and muscle release and deep tissue work, and Alana's experienced some of it, and as ways of helping basically pinpoint how the body is holding the pattern that then the mind responds to and creates the emotional story around. And if we can release the pattern, the emotional story, the coping behaviors, and all that other stuff, they kind of go away on their own. And so it's getting to the root, but the root below words and below the conscious level. And there's lots of ways to do it. Obviously, the PSI work that you're doing is some, but this is great because it's always with your body. And so it doesn't require extra facilitation a lot of times. So we run retreats. There's online courses that we do. I just finished writing my book on the topic. It should be out in the next month or so. So if at the very least you wanna hop on that and read the book.
Oh yeah, let me know so we can totally promote it, and like maybe put this episode and the book and put it out together, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And so that should be out in a couple months. So whenever it'll be out by the time this airs. But that's a deep dive into all things about how your birthright of freedom is here. Yeah. And like all these anxiety, stress, depression, trauma, even chronic pain, people just don't understand how they're built. And so we run around looking for constant solutions and band-aids. But when you can really understand what's needed on the inside, freedom is just a skill. Like it's something you train, and then it happens automatically after that. And so we do retreats for men, we do retreats for women. Our next women's retreat is the end of March. And then men's retreats we have a little bit more frequently, just because I was a guy. So I started it so more guys kind of connect. But we've had hundreds of women come through, and profound results, deep healing from trauma and abuse and all kinds of stuff as we process all kinds of things. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'll say from personal experience, I've only had one session, but it takes bravery to go through it, that's for sure. And then on the other side, I'm just like, oh, for me, there was a lot of pain, a lot of that isn't there anymore. And then I don't know if you can see with my right there. Can you see it? There's my little stretch board.
Yes.
Yeah. So that lots of things Bob taught me, that our body knows how to realign, and that when I put my feet and I stretch them and I put my whole body against the wall behind me, at first I was like, kind of like this, but over time I'm starting to become more aligned, balanced. And when I align what I've learned with you into some of the PSI journeys, literally there's cannabis, and the cannabis is used as a teacher and a medicine. I used to use it just to like check out, but now it's like, oh, you're alive and you want to learn, and it'll show me all these places in my body to come back into just what you guys embodied with. You were laying there and you were right there with her, right? This is what's happening inside my body, my feminine, and he's not hypervigilant. My right side isn't so hypervigilant anymore. He's calming down. She's waking up and being grateful. And there's this incredible new, not there yet, but I'm getting there, way of being inside. So what I'm sharing, please check out thefreedomspecialist.com. These courses, whether you're a man or a woman, because there is a wisdom in our body that our society, I believe, so overvalues the mind that makes us stop. We don't stop to slow down and feel truth before we execute with our mind. And our bodies are so wise and have the ability to heal. And I'm just a student. He knows more than me.
Maybe.
Oh, we each have our superpowers. Let's say it that way. Yeah, thank you. 2 last questions and I'll let you go. One, Jasmine, tell me the most delicious thing about the 6 kids, being the mom of 6 kids.
Oh,
She always wanted 6 kids.
I did.
And
they
sometimes
are,
I don't think she realized what came with
they
it.
are fantastic. I mean, we actually had to have a rather long chat with our second oldest. He's 15 right now, but even with that
This
chat,
morning.
he's, they're just such good kids. And I don't know how they got that way.
Oh,
I mean, like, we probably had a little bit to do with it, but it just surprises me. They are the way they are, and the joy that they just bring because that's who they are. It's just amazing.
that's lovely. Well, I think kids choose their parents, so I think they were wise. Yeah.
Maybe.
Are they? At least we're willing to take a gamble.
They're
on the
like,
two.
this guy needs help. I better get down there.
It's possible they're all old souls going, oh, geez, they need some help. It's possible they chose you for that reason. But I'm just saying, I'm sure you're doing the level of truth you live at must make a beautiful energy that is, permeates your home. So that's beautiful. And lastly, I know this is probably a whole hour episode, but just in a nutshell, you were in India, correct?
In the Himalaya, in Nepal.
In the Himalayas, in Nepal, yeah. What is the biggest gift you took from that experience?
Wow. It was like, because I went as a pilgrimage, which is not the same thing as going as a tourist. And a pilgrimage is designed to like break down everything so that there isn't a self left to sit there and try and vaunt on the planet. And so you can be there just as a piece of life. As such, it did that. It was all of heaven and all of hell in the same trip. Wow. And when you're sitting at 16,000, 17,000, 18,000 feet on the top of a mountain in the middle of a country whose language you don't understand, with people chanting things that you don't really grasp, like freezing wind and all this stuff, trying to catch a glimpse of a mountain or watching this, that, or the other, like there was a point where my mind woke up and it was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
What is going on? You have come all this way, put all this effort to go someplace that has no connection to you when home is beautiful. And we've hiked mountains around here, and to spend a full day to get up to the top and realize you're on a pile of rocks, and there's piles of rocks next to the house, but you do all that effort to get to the top and look back down and say, oh, look how beautiful home is. And like on so many levels, to recognize that all of life is right here, that all that I've ever needed, wanted, or whatever is already here. Like home is always inside. And how many times I have placed my trust in an authority or in a message or in a book or in a tool or in a method and gone there. If I go there, then I will find it. And in so doing, had lost sight of how beautiful being here was. And so it was like the largest, deepest reminder that there's nothing left for me to seek, that all that I need has always been right here.
Well, mic drop. I'm sure glad I asked. Thank you for being you, for both of you being you, for this conversation, for inspiring me of what's possible in relationship and inspiring our viewership. All of you viewers, or if you're listening to this, I'm sure there were many moments in this conversation that have moved you and touched you. Please allow them to awaken and germinate. Give yourself a good 5, 10, 15 minutes after this conversation. Go into nature, get out your journal, just be, and let whatever this conversation woke up in you to have its way with you, so that your life is different because you took this hour to be with us, because that's why we did it, was for you, because we care and we love you. Even if we'll never embrace you or meet you, we still are quantum entangled with you, and we care, and we're here. All right. So stay with me as I press stop here, but thank you for watching another episode of Intimate Conversations. There is nothing more important to me than being so deeply connected to you. So thank you. Thank you for joining us for another edgy, transparent episode. I want you to be able to do more, stress less, feel happier, like I have with Magic Mind. So for Intimate Conversations listeners, you can get 40% off with my code INTIMATE20 when you go to magicmind.co/intimate. You're going to feel amazing, I promise. Thank you for being who you are. I love the shit out of you. Until next time, I've got your back.